Hello and welcome to TechNow, the ServiceNow technical webinar that teaches you cool stuff about the ServiceNow platform. I apologize, I don't have the music. I'm in a new studio and still getting things all straightened out for this rig. But that should not preclude us from going forward with the content. I am Chuck Tomasi, Senior Services Enablement Program Manager at ServiceNow, and sitting just across the virtual table from me is Andrew Kincaid. How are you, Andrew?
Good. Good morning, Chuck. We're both in new locations.
Pleasure to see you as always. Yes, I love
Yeah,
the piano.
thank you.
I thought you were
Right.
going to maybe play our intro music for us.
Maybe next time.
I'll get you the sheet music.
Mm.
If I can find it in GarageBand. I think there's a way to transpose it or something. All right, this time I'm going to jump right into it. Let me do my screen share thing here. Cross our fingers that the PowerPoint gods still love us.
And lock to your screen.
And lock to my screen. Thank you. I did not do that. Let me jump back out. Yeah. It's been we missed a month, and Andrew is all over the technical stuff. There we go. So this time we are going to be talking about the REST API in Eureka. This was a enhancement that was put in to Eureka to allow third-party applications to communicate via the RESTful protocol and interact with the tables and records and things. So before we get into that, of course, we want to remind you that Knowledge 15 is now less than 6 months away.
No way.
Depending on when you watch this, now it's definitely less than 6 months away. Because you could be watching this in January of 2016, and, well, sorry you missed it. You can look forward to Knowledge 16. We are going back to Las Vegas, where we are expecting a record number of attendees. It's going to be frighteningly large this time. We just keep growing and growing and growing, which is a good thing. So more networking, more knowledge, more labs, more hands-on, more everything. It's just going to be a wonderful time. If you have not been to a knowledge conference in the past, we highly encourage you, talk to your boss, go over to the website, knowledge.servicenow.com, and there's everything from how to convince your boss and justify it and what's going on. I think there's a preliminary schedule of things you can expect, and then the detailed schedule usually comes out in the first quarter so that we can get everybody lined up. Now, interestingly enough, if you are interested in presenting, keep an eye on that website because it is going to be calling for call for speakers. If it isn't already, I haven't checked lately. But 90% of the presentations at the conference are done by customers. So we want to hear from you. There's also cool things like a hackathon where we all stay up crazy late for, 8 or 10 hours and build stuff.
Lots of Red Bull is available.
Yeah. Red Bull floweth like water.
Right. On tap.
A lot of fun there. There's an Innovation of the Year award where we take things that customers have built over the year. If you think it's innovative and sexy and useful, just great way to show off your talents and your team's talents and get to know other people. I can't say enough about this. This will be number 6 that I'm attending. Wow. And it just keeps getting better every year. Yeah, I'm getting to be an old-timer at this thing. So enough of the commercial adverts, whatever you want to call them. Let's get into this. Here's our thinking dude, and he's wondering, Andrew, can I access ServiceNow records via REST?
I feel like there's a in there.
Yeah. So we want to give you a basic understanding of how external applications can get this information via the RESTful API, which is new and cool. And if you haven't upgraded to Eureka, you can always test this out on one of our demo sites and do exactly what I'm doing and do that. Otherwise, if you have Eureka, well, first of all, let's talk about why REST. Yes? Did you have a question?
Yeah. No, why REST?
Why REST?
I want to know.
I will tell you. First, let's figure out what it is. It's very similar to SOAP. It's not as complex, though. You don't need the whole envelope and message header, and it's a lot more akin to a basic HTTP request where you say, hey, based on this URL and a couple of headers, this is what I want. And I'll get into more details of how you can craft that query to create, update, insert, delete, read, the four basic CRUD operations for a
Right.
database, but it allows one application to talk to another, again, very much like SOAP, so that you can get information from one computer to the other, hence a web service.
Mm.
That's what's cool. We do use the standard methods. We're publishing these as it were. So you can do a get to read records, post to create new records, put and patch. I'll get into that in just a sec. But that's how you do your updates, and of course delete to delete records if you should choose to do so. And all of these methods, unlike a WSDL in SOAP where you got to download this thing and it tells you what you're allowed to do and whatnot, the methods are used via the URL. So if you
Mm.
want to, say, in this example, get at the incident record, you put on your host name https:// blah 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 .servicenow.com/API/now/table, and then the table name, and it says that tells it, if you use a get, to go get all the incidents. There's no filter at this point, so very easy to do. I'll show you some examples of that in just a sec. Now, you can access this if you forget how the REST API works. You can go into System Web Services on your navigation menu over on the left, and under the REST subheading is APIs. And this brings up a very helpful page with a quick reference of how you can do these gets and reads and writes and imports and all this good stuff, with links right to the product documentation. We're not supposed to call it a wiki anymore because we might be changing underlying technologies. So it's product documentation now, just so you're aware.
You owe marketing $1
No, I'm helping spread the word
every
about the
time you
new
say the W
terminology.
word.
Oh, you're going to make me do 20 push-ups like when I said OOB at Knowledge?
Oh no.
So the gives you a collection, gives you a link to those resources. And real quickly, again, if you want to get a hold of a collection or a table, I know they're called collections in dictionaries, so if you hear me use those terms, they're interchangeable. You go to API, now, table, and then table name, like I showed in that previous example, where it's incident, change request, sysuser, etc., etc. And then to get access to a specific record, you just slap on the sys-ID. Very easy. That 32-character hex string that we've talked about in the past, to identify that specific record, and that will get you the information or update the information to that specific record. I'm going to go through an example that shows this. Don't worry, I'm not going to bore you with PowerPoint slides forever. Of course, this is done via URL, so you get standard HTTP response codes back. 404 not found, 403 for access denied, 200 for success, 201 for created. I won't impress you with my limited knowledge of HTTP response codes, but you get the idea, and you can look up the rest.
Can it look up the rest?
I tripped over that one.
Come on, Chuck, give it a rest.
Oh, we can see where the humor's going in this one. I need a nap. This also is a versioned protocol, so the developers were really smart this time around. Not that they weren't smart before, but that we've learned from past experiences on protocols. And should something change in our RESTful implementation, and we need to say, all right, we're coming out with version 2, we don't want to impact all the existing implementations that are out there. So you've got your third-party application, and it's happily running along. And if you say API now table incident, it's going to use whatever the latest version of that protocol is. But if you put in V1 between the now and the table, like you see there on the screen, it will force it to stick with this version that we've got today as of this recording, which is version 1, so that you can always guarantee that your third-party application will work with version 1. Now, of course, you may want to take advantage of things in version 2, version 3, version 1754. That's fine. You can leave that off or force it to a specific version. So I thought that was kind of cool. I've never seen something like that before.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, these resource definitions, again, here's a quick table of description. I'm not going to go through all of them. We've got get to get records, post to create new records, Put and patch, however, at this point, in version 1, are functionally identical. I know there are some subtleties if you go read the full-blown IEEE or whoever came up with the RESTful implementation, some subtle differences, but you can do either right now in version 1 to create those updates. And I'll show you that in just a sec. It's not a big deal. Now, subtle change from the last screen. If you are going through import sets and you want to use transform maps and all that good stuff that we recommend for some of those tables, and I'll show you that in a demonstration as well. I know I keep teasing you with this demo, but it's not going to take that long. You would want to do that through the import table. For example, create a new record, create a new incident. We would go through API /now/import /IMP_notification. And it will do the transforms and the lookups and all that other good stuff that you want. So that's a subtle note. It's not now table, it's now import. So you get the idea real quick. We can put on some parameters to our URL to make it a little more filter. We can do a sysparm query. Give me all the ones that are priority 1 and state is 2 or active or whatever you choose. The display value, the sysparm fields, you can limit it to say I only need 3 records or 1 record. If it's got a really long table and you just want to know if 1 record exists, you can do a sysparm_limit to make the query run much, much faster. So lots of other things you can do there. This is, again, is all documented on the product documentation page. For security, everybody's worried about security when we're dealing with APIs and integrations, right? We do offer basic auth, which is the same as SOAP and other APIs, so we're not losing anything there. We're not gaining a whole lot either. We do have a role required for using REST. Excuse me while I get a frog out of my throat. So the REST_service is new, and all of the standard ACLs that you use with that authentication apply. So if I log in as Chuck.Tomasi through my API, all of my Chuck.Tomasi ACLs are valid. If I can't read from a certain table or a before query business rule is filtering things on me, that's all I'm going to see. It's all in the same schema as if it were interactive. So there's nothing special going on. We don't have to create any new hooks. Everything you know and love about ServiceNow security is there today.
Yay.
Yay. Nothing new to learn. That's my favorite. As far as technical notes, it is available starting in Eureka, so everything going forward will have that built in. If there are any changes, of course, look at the wiki and you'll know Fuji or Geneva or whatever comes after that may have some subtle changes. You can review that information there. There is no plugin required. It's on by default, even for upgrades. You don't need to turn anything on, enable anything. Abracadabra, you've got REST. Somebody did ask me a question about JSON v2 in the community before we got started, and it's not required that you have JSON v2 installed, implemented, or used. It's complementary to that, but it's not required. It doesn't interfere, and in fact, a lot of people were using JSON v2 because we didn't have REST. Now that we do, you can pretty much discontinue using REST. You asked earlier why REST, and one of my leading causes is that Amazon is going away from SOAP on their Amazon Web Services. So as we provision instances for Knowledge 15 using our orchestration product, all of those requests in the past were made via SOAP. And Amazon said, well, starting on, I don't know what the date is, but let's make one up. Starting on March 1st, 2015, we're no longer going to support SOAP. Everybody convert and use REST. And we went, oh, well, there's a good reason. So we saw this coming. We wanted to enable people to use this because EC2 is one of our orchestration packages that you can use and purchase and put together. So we wanted to make sure that we were ready for that cutover for Amazon, and then we didn't get caught with customers going, hey, how come I can't provision anything anymore? And as a result, it's a little more modern. It's a little cleaner than SOAP. Again, you don't have to worry about all the envelope.
Really? Did you just say it's cleaner than SOAP?
I love the colorful commentary today, Andrew. You are listening. He's adjusted well to a new time zone. It's 8 a.m. for both of us now instead
Woohoo.
of 10 and 11 a.m., which we used to do. We didn't change the schedule. We only moved to a different part of the country, and someone had their coffee today. I love it. You can do debugging. There is a property. I don't believe it's on a properties page anywhere. Glide.rest.debug. You can turn that on, and out will come lots of copious information in the system log. And I've used this. It's very helpful, but don't forget to turn it off so that you don't keep spewing log information all over the place. It's great for debugging, but it's exactly that. Turn it off when you're done fixing your problems and move on with life and enjoy your kids and take your wife out to a movie. Okay, again, if you want to see additional information, you can go to that APIs page under System Web Services. What we are covering today, just a reminder, is for inbound REST information. I'm going to simulate a third-party application talking to one of my instances. If you want to do outbound REST information, it's going to be under, look in the, I should say product documentation there now. Old slide!
Got yourself.
Yeah. Look under REST message, and it will tell you. The implementation is very similar to SOAP, where you can set up system parameters and test them out and get your little script snippet, post that into a business rule. So the outbound stuff functions very similarly through the API. Just want to make that distinction. We're not going to be talking about that. Maybe we'll do that at some point. That'd be fun. I don't have any immediate REST services that I can talk to other than getting a stock price or something. But we all know that ServiceNow stock price is doing well, and I have 18 other methods to check that. So I am here on my instance, and I look at the number of instances, and it says I have 30 incidents. I think I said instances.
I'm
mixing words up.
We forgive you.
Okay, thank you. Just not the bad humor, right? I have 30 of these, and what I'm using for my, what I'm using for my third party, check if people are done. They're done.
Are people done?
Our people are done.
Their people are done. Okay, good.
Stick a fork in them, they're done. I am using the Chrome extension for the Advanced REST client. You can freely go get this. It's a great debugging testing
this is really
tool.
cool.
This is really cool. And as I mentioned, I can put in localhost 8000. I have a ServiceNow instance running locally. API, now, table. Okay, and I want to do a get operation on that. And I want to provide two headers for this, two HTTP headers. One tells it what format I want to accept information in, and I want to get this in JSON so that I can read it. I'm not exactly as crafty at reading XML sometimes, but you could put in the appropriate XML MIME type here. And then authorization is an encrypted string with the login and the password to my instance. So my instance is running locally. Here's my credentials to get in, and I've told it I want the incident table. I send that, and I get, oh no, 403 forbidden. Yeah, where's the sad trombone? And my response also tells me in JSON-esque that I can pick this apart and use this in whatever script or something to tell you that I really had a problem. The problem is I've got a 403 forbidden. Why wouldn't this account be able to read the incident table, Andrew?
Well, you told us earlier it needed the REST service role.
You are
that's
correct.
My first guess.
So let me go to users. You know, I'm going to make the screen a little bigger as of now. Here's my rest.test account. It almost looks like I lined this stuff up earlier, doesn't it? I'll get a little more screen real estate here. And I'm going to edit the roles so that I can add the REST service role, save it, then we go back and test. I don't need to type anything new in. I can just hit send again. I get the status 200.
Wow.
Okay. And down here is my JSON. I can see this in raw JSON if I want, but it's kind of boring to read all on one line. It's Not very fun. So I use this colorful JSON tab that tells me, here is my first record, here's my second record, here are the values, all of this good stuff that I can now import to my home-built app that I'm running or whatever else that I've got that communicates via REST. So that is a simple record query. If I want to add on sysparm, look, I've done this before, it remembers me, and say, tell me all the records that have a priority 1 and the state is 2, which is active. I want to see all the active priority 1s. Maybe my third-party application is being very reporting. It says, okay, that worked also. And I found 2 records. Here they are. And
I just wanted to interrupt with a quick hint on those encoded queries, just in case our listeners are new to the product. That you can always go to, the normal user interface and create your query with the little filters, and then use the right click in the breadcrumbs.
Yes.
And then do copy queries. So like maybe you could show that really, like in your active equals true.
I can say show matching. I don't even need the filter tool to do this. I can do
true, right.
This one. I can do, come on, priority 1s that are active. Okay, and right-click way over here on state equals active and say copy query, and there it is. I know it's a little tiny, even though I enlarged the screen font, but
so that's
active equals 2, up caret priority equals 1, up caret state equals 2.
And that's what you were using in the sysparm query parameter, was an encoded query.
Yes, I did not make this garbage up. I don't claim to know how to parse every sysparm query. I am getting better at reading them, but writing them is still another question, especially when you get ands and ors and things in there. Very handy tool if you want to make more complex queries. So I can do that. That's a good way to get records. But I can also post a record. I want to create a new record, and I'm going to do this the bad way, just to demonstrate that it can be done. I'm going to write a record directly to the incident table. Now, you notice that when I went from get to post, down here, up came a payload. And the payload is going to be in JSON format. So I need to tell it short description, my... Okay. Not giving it any priority or anything. I'm going to hope that maybe a business rule picks that up and gets it, so that when I send this, I could make a more complicated. Oh no, unsupported value header for content type. It was a bad request. You know what? Set your content type here, Charlie. That might help. It had an override on it. Send that, and it says 201 created. It created a record. Woohoo! And it tells me a couple of things. It tells me the location of that record. Ooh, I could click on that link and go right to it. It gives me back the sys-ID, which I am going to copy just for edification, because I'm going to do something in the next operation. But I also want to go over here and look and make sure that I opened a new incident. There's 10,009. My monitor is flickering. Pretty neat. But again, it doesn't have a priority, it doesn't have a state, none of the business rules and things clicked in, and that's not the best way to do it. But if I open that record, I'm going to do one more quick exercise on this one, and then show you the preferred method. Okay. Here is my record. Everybody's happy, created by the REST user, because that's the credentials I used to log in and create this. Let's go back here. And this time I'm going to do a put. I could also do a patch. And put on the sys-ID to say I'm going to update this record and change this to comments. Now it doesn't work.
Oh no.
I can send another request. Da, 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 da. It says 200 OK. It's really kind of cool when you think about what's going on. And I should have a comment down here. Yep, it says additional comments. Now it doesn't work at all. But we generally, in a lot of cases, don't want to write directly to that table. We want to use our traditional import sets so that we have the capability to transforms and filter out bad data, all that good stuff. That's one of the strong points of this platform is its integration capabilities. So let's take a look at how we might do that. Go back to our little thing here. Rather than table incident, I'm going to say import imp_notification. And what is that table, Andrew?
Some type of import table, I suspect.
Exactly. If I didn't know that, I would go to import sets, and I can see that I have various data sources. One of them is, where'd it go? It's not there. It's import sets. And I can see that this import set has a transform map associated with it. Notification, the source table is imp_notification, and the target table is incident. So if I stick a record in this table in the right format and get everything nice and ready, it will do whatever this transform prescribes, which is go and take incoming records and map the fields this way. So I need a UUID and a message maps to short description. These look like our traditional incident filters. I'm not going to get into integrations too much. It's coalescing on just this one field, correlation ID, not number, not sysid, interestingly enough, because if I'm inserting a new record, what do I have from a third-party system? I don't have a sysid yet if I haven't created a record yet. So it would send along some GUID that would make sense to the external system. So let's do that, and rather than watch me type this all out, I am going to copy something I did earlier and bring it in here. And here's my message field, which will get mapped to short description. Third floor printer is on fire, really not having a good day. And
First your monitor, then your printer.
My monitor was only flickering. Because by the time IT gets here, the fire, I'm sure, won't have progressed any further. They're so fast. And for this example, I'm just using the date and time as my UUID, making this up, imitating a third-party application. So I send this request, and it comes back and says, yes, I created a record, right? But I created it in the imp_notification table. Here's your sysid. Have a nice day. It created it with all this good stuff. Okay, it runs the transform, and I should see. Let's go back to import sets. Import set number 3. Ta-da! It says loading, but I'll bet by the time I get to the incident table, it'll be done. There it is. Third floor printer is on fire. Woohoo! Now notice I have a priority, I have a state, I have all the other good stuff that is supposed to happen when I create an incident through an integration. You could even put a default assignment group and all that good stuff.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in your REST tool that when you sent that into imp notification, it actually returned the sysid for the incident table, like in your little JSON response at the bottom.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
It didn't return a sysid for your imp notification record. It returned the target.
Well, it did in the HTTP header for location, but in the payload of the response, I get the record link. Yes.
Right.
So I've got both there.
Very nice.
And of course, if I want to put a new notification on there or patch to do an update, I can certainly update that record the same way. So not terribly difficult to figure out. I was surprised how simple REST really is. Questions? Comments?
I like
Let's
it.
go back to PowerPoint. And notice that we figured out how to get in and out of PowerPoint without crashing the Hangout. Sorry, just pointing out some pain that we had before. There are some advantages and disadvantages with REST. The advantage is that it now provides you this interface to the ServiceNow table in a more modern format, easy to access. So if you've got an application and it's got JSON v2, SOAP, or REST, my instinct would be to go for REST, unless you hit one of the disadvantages that I'm going to show you that's catastrophic. It does offer better performance, or so I'm told, over SOAP. I haven't done any personal time trials to figure out, hey, how fast can I put in 10 million records? And it offers this pagination support where I can say I need 5,000 records at a time, or 10,000 records at a time, or 3 records at a time. And of course, I mentioned versioning so that you can make your application persistent to a specific set of features that are available and don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, ServiceNow did an upgrade and now it's not going to work. So you can do that. You don't have to. The disadvantages are no worse than some of these other application protocols that we've seen in the past. We don't have the ability to do multi-records for updates and inserts yet. I don't know if that's coming or not. I haven't talked to the developers in a while. So all the examples you saw me do, I'm inserting one record or I'm updating one record. Now, there was a reason for that. I'm not terribly familiar with hierarchical web services. It sounds really cool. But again, I'm told didn't have it in JSON v2, so you're not going to die without it today. If that's something that's required, call our support people. They may have an answer for you in another protocol. I don't even know if SOAP does that, to be honest. And variables for like catalog items and attachments are currently out of scope. So again, I haven't heard if and when and how we're going to address those. But again, stay tuned to the product documentation. We will have more for you on that. Our takeaways for you, things we want to leave you with, some thoughts. This is a new protocol. Seems to be working fairly well, very robust, and gives you the opportunity to work in the new millennia of protocols. You know, things change very quickly, and this is a great way to go. I wish I were doing more integrations that I could use this on. It sounds very cool. I've had a lot of fun putting this demo together and just interacting with it, going, boy, that was easy. I mean, when you compare this to the complexity of doing a SOAP request, especially from a third-party application, oh, man.
And using SOAP UI and constructing envelopes.
Exactly. No, SOAP isn't too bad in ServiceNow because it's, you know, we've got the nice framework to fill out forms and get your script sample and everything for outbound stuff. But for inbound, I can't imagine. So if you want to get in touch with us, there are a couple of addresses on the community. We'd love to hear from you. You can also follow us on Twitter at ServiceNow or ServiceNow Support. Those aren't actually us. There's somebody else who's helping us run this operation. This modest little video series we've created has taken on a life of its own. So I suspect there will be other scalable changes coming out in the future. So keep in touch. Let us know what you think. And thank you very much. Andrew, did you have any closing comments? Let me get our cameras back on here and turn off the screen sharing.
Let's see. There I am. There you are. Hi, Chuck. Closing comments.
Can you think of an example where you would want to use a third-party application coming into ServiceNow?
You're putting me on the spot. I can't. I don't think I'm awake yet.
You're also doing a lot more things at the platform layer. Andrew's now doing a lot more Java code than he is customer implementations like he used to in the old days.
Yeah, nothing comes to mind.
All right. Well, maybe that's a query for our viewers is to...
Yes, how are you using Rust?
Send us a comment. Just look up expert in the community and you'll come up with our series on these. You can just join the discussion. There's a button when you find our REST API article. I probably should have put a screenshot of that on the screen. And then you can add your comments there and we'll respond to them. So until next time, thank you for watching this video.
Yes,
thank you very much for joining, Andrew.
Thank you, Chuck.
And go out there and innovate something. Bye.
Bye, everyone.